Hello, my favorite marketing researchers. It's Dr. G. Hey, I hope your week is going well. I hope that the semester is moving along great for you. And I'm really excited to start to see your projects come together as we last time talked about hypotheses, and now we're going to spend some time talking about variables. And the variables are those minute things, those attributes that you want to measure. And it's exactly the information that we need to design our questions. So remember, last time was all about hypotheses. And remember, it's your educated guess. It's what you think is going to happen in any particular circumstance. And what is a hypothesis? Remember, we have three components to it. It can be manipulated or measured. It identifies the population to be examined, and it indicates the proposed outcome of the study. So you have to have those things. So if we need to understand those things, we need to identify the variables that we are trying to measure. So think about a variable as any sort of object, event, idea, action, feeling, time period, demographic. All these things are the things you want to know, that you want to measure. So there's two types of variables. This is really important. The first is dependent variable, and this is what you think is going to happen. We often call this an outcome variable. The second is the independent variable. So the dependent variable is the variable you want to measure. And the reason we call it dependent because it depends on someone. It depends on an action. It depends on something else. The something else is the independent variable. And that variable stands alone. It's not changed. It's just one thing that we're trying to measure. So remember my ice cream scenario? Yeah, I'm kind of hungry for ice cream today. So I'm going to tell you I'm just on my ice cream kick. So let's say I go to the local ice cream store every single day for a month. I want to know how it's going to impact my waistline. So the outcome or dependent variable is my waistline. The variables are things that I believe would impact my waistline. So if I eat ice cream every day, what could impact it? Maybe if I just go in and get the fat-free ice cream, that might act differently from the whole fat ice cream. Maybe I got an ice cream sundae. Maybe I got a blizzard. Maybe I got sprinkles and nuts on my sundae. All of those things I'm talking about could impact my waistline, right? Not just the ice cream alone, but are there other things that could impact my waistline? What about, so those are all the independent variables. My final thing, my outcome variable is going to depend on the independent variable. What if I don't eat anything all day? All I have is the ice cream. Maybe that doesn't impact my waistline. You never know. So that's the difference between the dependent and the independent variables. So if you look at my example here, test score again, you're all students. Your test score is what you want to measure. How well did you do on the test? The independent variables are those things that could impact that test score. The amount of time studying, the amount of sleep at night, or the time of the exam. Those are all different independent variables that could potentially impact the dependent variable. So what we want to understand is the relationship between the variables, the dependent or independent. Maybe it's positive related, maybe it's negative related, maybe it has no relationship at all. All right, so let's remember, in marketing research, the dependent variable is the result of what you want to achieve. An independent variable is the input of process that influences the dependent variable, the outcome. So we often have more than one variable in a study. as we want to best predict the result. So let's look at this. You created a research question for your project topic. What do you want to find out? And what explains it? So just like my ice cream scenario, you know what you're trying to predict. That is your dependent variable. And the things that may or may not influence or have a relationship to the dependent variable is the independent variable. All right, so here's your turn. Now, your research problem or opportunity is COVID restrictions are being lifted next month. That's interesting. What if my research question? Who is most likely to purchase concert tickets? All right, you like to go to the concert. And what do you want to measure? I want to measure ticket sales, right? Because all of the concerts have been shut down. I'm a marketer. The restrictions are going to open up. People have been vaccinated. What explains it? What are your independent variables that could explain ticket sales? Maybe it could be vaccination. Has somebody been vaccinated or not? Vaccinations, do they impact ticket sales? Does the venue impact ticket sales? Does the state impact ticket sales? What about the artist? So even though the business problem is increasing sales, or what's going to happen if restrictions are better, who's most likely to purchase concert tickets? All right. So your dependent variable is ticket sales. Who is most likely to purchase? So I said all of those things. I also said, I also could say age, income, vaccination, male, female, close to venue, all of those things. Okay. So that is example number 1. Example number 2, here's a business problem. Sales have decreased in the last 2 months. Oh no, you're DoorDash. How on earth has DoorDash decreased their sales in the last? I thought everybody got DoorDash every day. The research question you're interested in, to what extent are various customers satisfied with the service? So you see that you have a loss in sales, and you want to get at what is contributing to that. Your dependent variable is customer satisfaction. How satisfied is the customer? Really satisfied, not really satisfied? And your independent variables are those things that could explain it. So you're the DoorDash CEO. What could explain the decrease in customer satisfaction? Well, you could say, maybe the number of restaurants. I'm sick of ordering from the same restaurants. Maybe it is the delivery is too slow and my food is cold. Maybe it is I'm back to work now and I can leave my house. So as you can see, the independent are those things that you believe could predict your dependent variable. All right, Nike shoes. Here's the business problem. Shoe returns have increased significantly in the last 6 months. Research question. Why are shoes being returned? So we want to measure returned merchandise, right? And what explains it? Could it be the merchandise return? Could it be you don't get to go to the store to try them on, you're ordering more online? So there's a chance that you don't like the way they fit or feel. Could it be that I lost my job, I can't afford the shoes, and I'm having buyer's remorse? Could it be that there's a quality issue with the shoe? All of a sudden when you start getting lots of returns, quality might be an issue. So this is what I want you to do, is think about from a marketing perspective. Dollar Store is scheduled to be built next to Harmon's, which is a high-end grocery store. How does this impact consumers' willingness to pay a premium price at Harmon's? So your dependent variable is the outcome, the product price. The independent variables are, okay, maybe the quality of the merchandise, the selection, maybe it's the stigma of going to the dollar store versus the high-end store. So these are all potential independent variables that could explain the dependent variable. All right, you get the drift, right? So what I want you to think about is, why is choosing the right variables for a study so important in marketing? And one of the things I will tell you is that selecting the variables and creating the right questions is essential. Because if you're going to spend the amount of time and money on a consumer survey, you darn better have the right things to measure, because you're going to get one shot at it. It costs too much money to go. You can't go back to the same consumers and ask again and expect to get the same results or new information. So collecting the right things that you want to measure is extremely important, because if you don't get the right thing, you may not have the right answer. All right, next thing I want to talk about is control variables. So remember that we've got the independent and the dependent variable. So we just practice those. You're rock stars at these. The control variable are the things that you want to hold constant so you don't have to influence the experimental outcome. So this could be anything you want to measure. Maybe it's the age of a person, or maybe it's the temperature in a room. So if you think about what we had before, so here we had the dependent variable on, we want to measure test scores. How well did you do on your last test? Well, this is an online class, so maybe, maybe that influences some time. Maybe the amount of time studying is independent, the amount of sleep prior, the time of exam. Other independent variables could be, do you have a computer in working order? Did you work all day? And the control variables are those things that we want to hold constant. The things we don't want to impact our predictions. So maybe IQ. I don't care about your IQ and how well you do on the test. I'm going to hold that constant. I don't care how old you are. Maybe I want to remove room temperature, and I just want to focus on the independent variables. So the control variables are the things that you don't want to have impact your results. So you hold them constant. All right, so there's a lot of variable types. I'm not going to go through hundreds of variable types for you. Instead, I have created you a phenomenal guide in Canvas of the types of variables and their descriptions. I would say once you take out the sheet, because you're going to have to understand these when you do your write-up for your research project, keep it handy. It's a great guide. So here are a few. Discrete variables are numeric variables that have a countable number of values between any two values. So it would be like every day. There's a discrete, if you could count the number of days in a year. So every variable has a value between any two variables. Now, an infinite number of values between any two values, or a continuous variable, can be numeric or date and time. So continuous variables are that there's no spec pinpoint. There's an infinite number of values between the time. Nominal are two or more categories that which do not have any intrinsic order. So say, for example, you've got the states. You want to know what people's states are. There's no order to state, right? There's no difference between Utah and Florida. They're just categories. They have no dependence on each other. A dichotomous or binary variable is yes or no. So uh, you could say, is it AM or PM? Am I Democrat or Republican? Am I this or that? Am I yes or no? Ordinal variables are variables that have two or more categories, yet they can be ordered or ranked. So you could do like bronze, gold, silver, right? They're rankable. We're watching the Olympics, bronze, silver, gold. Icky, okay, good, great. There's some order. There's two or more categories, yet they can be ordered and ranked. Unlike the binary is yes or no, or the nominal variable is just categories. So I have a list of common categorical variables for you, and you can find these in Canvas. And the reason I give these to you is because there's some standards in marketing research that will help you be able to, at a high level, take one, take some secondary research, remember somebody else has done, and maybe do some comparisons. So if you keep the same age ranges, for example, or states or etc., using similar categories will be really consistent. So there are some best practices out there, and I have those for you in Canvas. So let's think about a hypothesis that you want to test. Think about that for your project, and I want you to go through and determine the variables that you want to measure. So I completed a consumer research study that I'm writing up in a paper right now. It is called Brand Love. What's in a team name? So I am measuring a construct called brand love, which is really all of those things. It's like the brand, seeing a brand as a human being. You love them or you hate them. So there's some variables that are already a part of that construct. So I'm taking the construct of brand love and looking at, well, if I love the brand a lot, what does brand love look at in terms of it is a sporting team name? So I did some consumer research. I got 5,000 consumer responses, and some of my hypotheses are there is a significant relationship between team name and brand love. Now, I don't have a relationship. I'm not stating whether it's positive or negative. I'm just saying there is something between team name and brand love. Then I also have a relationship between team name change or a new team name and brand love. And then I'm also looking at purchase intention. So as I do my research, I want to look at the dependent variable that is being measured. So if you look at this hypothesis here, I want to know the impact of brand love based on a team name. The stronger the team name, I believe the more they love the more they love the brand, the stronger they love the team name. So my dependent variable are the variables in the construct of brand love, like I'm excited or I'm passionate, I'm loyal. Those are the things I'm going to measure. How passionate I am, how loyal I am, how excited I am. That is the outcome variable. Excuse me. If I am looking at purchase intention and team name, I would look at something like, did I purchase in the last 12 months or not? Yes or no? How much was that purchase? Those types of things are the outcome variable. So my independent variables, now I want you to do this with your assignment, with your project. What are you measuring in your hypotheses? Now, the independent variables are all those things that could cause a reason for an outcome. It's called the explanatory variable, remember? So if you're looking at brand love, my independent variables could be maybe the state people are in. Maybe my independent variable is the age. How old are you? Perhaps my independent variable could be whether a team name is controversial or not. So those are the types of independent variables that I would look at in my study. And you need to look at independent variables for your study. Now, what things would I want to control? Maybe I want to control the time I take the study. Or maybe I want to control the weather, whether they're a hot state or a cold state. All of these different things. I don't know that I had control variables in my study, but I'll take a look at it when I start to analyze the results. But you may have control variables in your study. So I'm going to note here, we did this in another lecture. One of the ways to really understand your variables is to create what we call a dummy table. Now, a dummy table includes your dependent variable and your independent variables. So, which pizza reference do you prefer? So, Pizza Hut, Ray's, or Pizza Factory. And then your independent variables are male and female. So, when you lay it out in a format like this, it's also, you'll probably look at it and say that looks like a pivot table in Excel. It's exactly what it is. So when you're creating your questions, sometimes to make sure you have what you need, it's good to create some sort of dummy table. I'm not requiring this of you, but it's a good trick to have. So we've spent a lot of time talking about variables. I have a lot of tools for you in your toolkit. I have best practice variables. I've got sheets for you. I've got activities for you to complete. So I want you to be able to tell me for your research study, what are your independent variables you're going to use and what is your dependent variables? And I want you to think about that in terms of what you're trying to measure and the types of questions you will ask. So if you have questions or comments, reach out to me through Canvas. If you're interested in learning more from the Marketing Doctor, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Take care, everyone, and have fun creating all those variables.